No, I might as well wait.
All right, it should be on now.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday, October 21st, 2020 regular board meeting. We are happy to be here, see everyone's doing well. Looks like we've got guests with us tonight, so as we move through our agenda, we will be introducing them. Without further ado, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Gator,
Here.
Mrs. Moomin,
Here.
Mr. Roberts,
Here.
Mr. Freeman,
Present.
Miss Mitchell.
Here. All board members are here and accounted for. Thank you, Dr. Rock. At this time, Member Roberts is going to lead us through the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. We are at item 1.3. It's approval of tonight's agenda. Before we move into the motion, are there any items that need to be added to or removed from the agenda? I'll start with Dr. Rock.
No.
Mr. Jolly?
No additions to the agenda at all.
Mr. Roberts, I'll call on you at this time because you had a question earlier.
Yes,
Go
yes,
ahead.
Madam Chair. Could we possibly add a discussion of the retreat to tonight's agenda? Would that be possible?
Yes, sir. We'll add it to, it'll become item 7.2.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. So the agenda will be amended to include 7.2, discussion of the upcoming board retreat, November 6th through the 7th. So with that addition, if I may have a motion on the floor to approve tonight's agenda.
Madam Chair, I move to approve tonight's agenda, Warrensville Heights City School District regular meeting, adding the addition from board member Roberts 7.2, a discussion of retreat.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
I second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Gator,
Mimi, are you on mute? Mimi, did we lose you?
Not on mute. Can you hear me?
We can hear you
now.
now.
Okay.
No.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes. Can you guys see me?
No, now we can.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
Sorry. It's been a long time since I've done this on my iPad. All righty. With the approval of our agenda, we're going to move into item 1.4, approval of minutes for August 27th, 2020, our special meeting, and August 2nd, 2020, our work session meeting.
Madam Chair, I move to approve item, is that one? Oh, okay. Approve item 1.4 of the minutes pertaining to August 27th, 2020 special meeting and September 2nd, 2020 work session meeting.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. Dr. Rock, I'm sorry, board, is there any discussion on these items?
No, ma'am.
All righty.
No.
Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Mimi, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
We sure can.
I have to come off mute and go back on mute, but yes, yes.
Mrs.
Okay.
Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. All righty. Excuse me. Next on our agenda is item 1.5. We will have a presentation by our curriculum department. So we will ask our presenters to please introduce yourselves and share your title within the organization.
Sure. Hi, good evening. Bailey Morris, Data and Assessment Coordinator.
And good
Welcome.
evening. Good evening. I'm Dr. Kaver, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, and Bailey will be leading the presentation this evening.
Thank you, ma'am. You guys have the floor.
All right, let me go ahead and share my screen and then I will get started.
Okay.
All right. So the goal for tonight is to give everyone just an overview of what we're doing with data that we've had in-house currently that we've collected this school year, but then also to analyze some trend data that we have been looking at over the past 2 to 3 years. So as you all know, due to current circumstances, the Ohio Department of Education did not give us an overall state report card, nor did they grade any of our components. There's some data that was represented on our report card, such as the graduation rate, improving at-risk readers component, only partial data. It was missing data about third grade students, as we did not take the spring OST, and then also prepared for success data was reported. So what data are we looking at since we did not take the spring end of course exams or the Ohio State test? So at the beginning of every year, as required by the Ohio Department of Education, we do administer the kindergarten readiness assessment. So it essentially assesses just that, our scholars' readiness for entering kindergarten. So we've looked at some of that data. This is our 6th year that we've administered the measures of academic progress assessment, which is most frequently referred to as the MAP assessment. Historically, we have used this for our K-3 reading diagnostic as required for the 3rd grade reading guarantee. However, this year, we've only used it for grades 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, just to limit some of the testing with students not being in-house 5 days a week. So we've looked at that data and how it's compared from year to year in comparison to this year. And then we can continue to administer the iReady diagnostic assessment for reading and math in grades K-8. And so this is another assessment tool that we've had for, I want to say 5, if not 6 years already. And then we have looked at historical data from the Ohio State test, as well as the end of course data, where we're looking at trends by grade, by standard, and then by teacher. And I'll go through what we've been using with that and some of the information that we have gained. And then lastly, we would continue to look at value added trends. And so value added is what is reported on the progress component of the report card, as well as state projections. So this year, we did receive projections from the state of Ohio in regards to where students should fall at the end of this academic year. So that is guiding our work as well. So one of the forms that we have been looking at is a traditional standards analysis. So with this data set, we're looking at a variety of different things. So one piece is looking specifically at each individual standard as well as domain. And so a domain is essentially a cluster of group of standards that all fall under a certain category. So in this example, you can see geometry as a domain area, as well as measurement and data, and then underneath it is a subset of standards that link right up to that. And so here we've got 3 years of state data that we're looking at here. So from 2017 to 2018 and to 2019. We're looking at the number of questions that have been assessed on the assessment, again, by domain, as well as each individual standard. And then we're also looking at the average of points earned on 1-point items, as well as 2-point items. So, we're really analyzing our progress over standards over the course of the year. We're looking at our average performance, which you can see on the far right. So it's combining the frequency in which these questions have been tested over the past 3 years, our average score. And so this is guiding us through areas of strength, as well as areas that we may need to improve on. And with this data, we also have this data at teacher level reports. So and working with teachers, that's something that we can deliver to teachers again, so they can have a deeper analysis of themselves as teachers and areas where they are, outperforming other areas and then areas that they might need to grow. With looking at state data as well, we're also tracking cohorts. So in this example, again, you can see your domain, which again follows underneath a cluster of standards. And here we're tracking progress over this domain over a course of years. And so we know that with all of our standards, K through 12, they all follow a progression. And through that progression, different standards eventually link up with different domains. And so in looking at this, we can see how the same group of students is performing over these domains over time. And so in this particular example, if we follow a cohort of third grade students from 2017, then into 2018 as fourth graders, and then into 2019 as fifth graders, we can look at this and ask questions such as, why are we seeing a drop in scores? Is there something in our instructional mapping that we might need to tweak in order to ensure that we have enough time to cover certain standards? And then on the flip side, you can see too that over time, we see growth in areas. So again, asking those same type of questions, looking at initiatives that have been put in place and, trying to figure out if that initiative has made a positive or a lack thereof impact in some of our scores. So this is looking at things at a broad view, a bird's eye view, but then it challenges us to ask questions, to dig a little bit deeper, to better understand what's happening inside of our classrooms and what's happening with learning. And then projection data. This is probably one of my favorite things to look at. So what the state does is each year they give us projections for students. And so they use projections based off of prior test history. So when they make projections, they're making projections based off of a typical year's worth of growth. And so this data is looking at, are we growing students as expected, more than expected, or less than expected? And this is something that I think that we have really fine-tuned and have skillfully been able to monitor. And so if you remember on our 2019 report card, we actually did receive an A in progress, which is our ability to move students. And like I mentioned before, the state is saying, a year's worth of growth is expected progress. But we know that in order to close achievement gaps, we have to make more than a year's worth of progress. And this is something that we have really crafted over the past couple years. And, I paid in part into how we're monitoring, tracking students over time. So if you look at this, the last column here, this is what the state gives us. So they say, on average, this student should be proficient. So if we look at student A, we know that they have a 96-97% chance of being proficient on our state test. And so here we're tracking internal data over time. And so you can see on their last math test, if it's green, that means that they're scoring within that proficient band. So as a fourth grader, they were already scoring proficient or higher. And so we know that according to state projections, they should also be scoring proficient on that next year's test. So throughout the year, as we give our benchmarks, as we're giving iReady diagnostic, MAP diagnostics, we're continuing to chart their progress and determining whether or not that they are on track to meet that end of year proficiency projection. So you can see for student A, there's no red flags that are being raised because they have met every single target along the way. Whereas if you look at student E, for example, they have an 87% chance of being proficient on the state test. They were proficient as a fourth grader, but something is happening over time where they're not showing that they're meeting those projections throughout the year. So again, it allows us to ask questions. Is the student coming to school? Is there a behavior concern that's happening? Is something not happening inside of classrooms? What does instruction look like for that student? So that we can dig a little deeper and then provide the intervention and resources that that child might need to be as successful as possible. And then another way that we're looking at it is if you look at student F, you can see that they have a 17% chance, 18% chance of being proficient on the state test. And even as a fourth grader, they were not proficient on the state test, but our internal data is showing that on average, they are above that projection. So again, we can ask those same questions and figuring out what's happening with that student instructionally that's giving them such a high level of impact and how can we replicate that in some of our other areas. So this is a nice overview that we look at with teachers as well as our building principals. And we also use this data, as you know, on our state report card, we're also evaluated on certain subgroups, subgroups including students with disabilities, as well as students who have been identified as the lowest 20% across the state. And so you'll see this in progress, and you'll also see this in the gap closing component of the report card. And so even looking at these projections, we can then just look at those subgroups and see how those subgroups are performing. And again, provide intervention and support where needed. Teacher level summary data. So this is something that we shared with our building administrators in the spring. And it's really giving an overall view of teachers and their ability to move certain groups of students. So when the state gives us projections, students are grouped by their probability. So the state groups students into 3 different categories. They're grouped into lower performing, middle or average performers, and then as high performers. So this is tracking teachers' ability to grow students within those different bands. And so looking at this, it gives building administrators some good insight as far as when they're getting ready to schedule, when they're assigning teachers to certain grade levels, to certain content areas, to certain group of students, where they can be the most successful. So in this example, if you look, at teacher B, and so what the color coding means is green means that a teacher is growing a group of students more than expected. Yellow means that they're growing students as expected, and red means that they're growing students below the growth standard. So really, depending on where they fall within the yellow band, yellow and green means that they're growing on average or more. So that's really what we want to see. So if we're looking at teacher B, we can see that for the past 2 years, they've been growing the lowest group of scholars very well, more than the growth standard, which is exactly what we want to see, in particular for this group of students. Middle group of students, for the most part, she is growing them as expected, but we see that, there's red for the highest group of students. So again, I'll go back to the questions. It allows us just to kind of review and reflect what's being put in front of those students and how are we challenging them, and what does acceleration look like for that teacher or even that particular grade level. And then again, for students or for teacher C, we're seeing, they're growing students as expected for the low group, but the middle group is not growing as expected. So that would be an area that a principal might want to talk to their teacher about. Maybe that's an area in their professional growth plans that they want to focus on, because we really want to see students growing more than expected on average. So, looking at this from a building perspective, so if we're looking at all of it, it's safe to conclude that this group of teachers or this grade level or this building, they're making expected growth. There's a couple areas that we want to dig into a little bit deeper, but on average, they're doing a fairly good job. So some of the action steps that we have already taken with this data, as a curriculum team, we traveled around to all of the TBTs, and Mr. Jolly was there with us. And we reviewed this data. Now, for some teachers, it wasn't necessarily new data because we have looked at it before, but we put it back in the forefront. And so when we looked at the standards level data, we had teachers really go through and comb through what areas are you seeing that as a grade level you're performing well, and then what areas should we focus on? Where do we need to build capacity within ourselves and within our team so that we can continue to accelerate achievement as needed? So in part of this work, we're also working with our TBT teams to kind of shape the way that it looks, because we know that in order to become deeper masters of the content, we have to spend a lot of time, and we have to look at what that progression of skill looks like over the course of several years, and really digging into those topics and figuring out where those root causes are coming up at, and then what we can do as a collective to ensure that our scholars have the skills that they need to master the grade level concepts. And then upcoming steps, we will start progress monitoring of some of our interventions, of some of our work once we take our first benchmark assessment, which will be November 6th through 10th. And then we'll be continuing to collect teacher feedback in regards to how it's influencing and impacting their work. So that is all that I have for you. So I open it up for any questions that you may have.
Board, are there any questions? And I'll have to ask forgiveness. I can't see if you guys are raising hands because the presentation's up.
I'm gonna pull it down.
Okay, thanks. Are there any, go ahead, Mimi.
So is any of the data that you guys are tracking pertaining to chronic absenteeism? Are you guys able to track that, or is that something that you're doing right now?
Yes, that is something that we can track.
So what does absenteeism look like right now, based, as a result of the pandemic?
Well, actually, it's not that bad because we have an attendance team. That's what we're using our paraprofessionals for, and Mr. Alexander. It's around 94%. Actually, it's a little better than it normally is when we have regular school because the immediate contact, the immediate phone calls is being made by the teachers and by this team that we've created.
All right, so they're calling the individuals at home and saying, hey, Johnny's not online, what's going on?
Actually doing home visits also. So they've been to houses also.
Who's doing the home visits?
We have a group of paraprofessionals.
Okay.
We
gotcha.
did the MOU. We have a group of people that's their job.
Okay, so one other question. What is the most important thing to track at this time? And I'm basing this question just on the pandemic. I mean, I would imagine you don't want to change your expectations, but expectations, it's a different environment. So what is your focus right now to ensure?
So that's a twofold. That's a very critical question because the state is not stopping anything. So their expectation of the students is the same. That's why we have to give a third grade test pretty soon. We still have to do end of the course tests in December. And in the spring, they're going to expect us to test. So the expectation by the state, it hasn't changed at all. So we have to continue to try to teach the kids exactly what they need to be successful in these challenging times because the expectation has not changed at all for any student in the state of Ohio. The expectation is like all students are in school and that they're learning normal, even though we know that's not the case.
And so are you guys able to compare the data from now to what it looked like this time last year? To see, I mean, I'm not even sure if that's possible, but just to see, is there a decline?
Yeah, I mean, I'll let them speak on it, but yeah, I mean, you can compare, but is the data reliable? That's the big question because people taking tests at home, there's other support that can help them with the exam. So, there's a reliability variance in this that Bailey and Dr. Caver can speak to. So we can't say that the data is accurate. We did have kids come in and take tests though. So our teachers did have kids come in and take tests. So again, the whole situation is fluid, very fluid. But I will reiterate, and I was going to talk a little bit about this in the superintendent report. The expectations from the state hasn't changed at all.
All right, thank you, Bailey and Dr. Caver, for the presentation.
Go ahead, Mr. Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank you, Dr. Caver. I want to thank you, Bailey. I know, Bailey, I come to you every month asking you questions, but I love your passion for taking over this data assessment. I love that you know all the answers when I asked them, and I think we're doing a great job. My question to you, Bailey, now like Ms. Gator said, with the pandemic, do you see that your data is a little flawed or a little off? I know Superintendent Jolly said we don't know if the actual scholars have taken the test, but have you seen a shift from 2019 to 20?
Yes. So we were fortunate enough to be able to bring in kindergarten through third grade for our MAP diagnostic in the KRA. So I feel pretty confident that that data is valid. We were able to test the majority of students, about 90% of students in person. So like I said, that the data I feel is good data. So I'm looking at, if we just look at the number of students who qualify for reading improvement and monitoring plans. So these are students that have not met the threshold in order to meet, grade level expectations at the end of the year. So if we look at kindergarten, we're not seeing much of a difference. There's a 3% difference between this year and last year. And, depending on the group of kids, that falls within normal range. So, I mean, currently right now, I don't have, I'm not worried about kindergarten. If we look at first grade, we're looking at a 10% difference. So 10% more of scholars that are going to be on reading improvement and monitoring plans this year. If we look at second grade, there's a 19% increase of students who will be on those reading improvement and monitoring plans. And then third grade, we're looking at a 7% increase. So there's definitely, some areas to think about and some ways in which, we change some of the things that we're doing. MAP did put out an assessment, or not an assessment, but a brief in the spring. And so in the article they talked about, or in the study, they talked about the COVID slide. So in some areas, I feel like, based off of that prediction, we're in the same predicament. And in talking with other colleagues, in our area and across the state, they're seeing many of the same, dips that we are. So we're not in this alone by any means. Everybody is seeing it in one way, shape, or another. Yeah, I mean, there are some areas where we're going to have to do some work, but that's what we're here to do. So we'll make it happen.
Yeah. So
Thank you so much, Bailey. Thank you.
thanks, Bailey. Understanding that, we knew it was going to be a dip. That's just common sense.
Yep.
How are we poised to bring the kids out of the dip? Especially feeling that we're not going to be out of this pandemic situation anytime soon.
So I'll speak. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Jolly.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Caver.
So I was just going to add, so with that, as Bailey has stated, so MAP is basically right now the only reliable data that we have because we brought the students in. And of course, we knew that we wanted to see what those gaps were, and we have that. That's one data source for us. We have another, I want to speak to Mr. Jolly's point in terms, and then I'll answer your question, Ms. Mitchell. But to our MAP assessments don't necessarily line up. We also did iReady remotely, to Mr. Jolly's point. We did that K through 8, and we saw some variations there. And some of that data showed that our students were right where they were last year, and in some cases above. So that's why we say that we have to be very cautious.
So we just lost you, Caver.
Of the data that we are gathering. And can you hear me now?
We're losing you a little bit.
Okay. So I'm not exactly sure. If not, I'll let Mr. Jolly just take over with his response. But we have put certain things in place. We are definitely still doing the things that we've done in the past, but we do recognize things have to be a little bit differently, be done differently. So in addition to trying to keep the instruction going remotely 5 days a week, whether they're with us or not, we made sure that we had all live lessons for our students. Every day, 5 days a week for the first 9 weeks up until we started bringing them in on the hybrid. We also, at the primary level where we know we have reliable data, we hired additional tutors that the board approved for us, thank you, to help out with the reading instruction. They're specifically working with those kids that are on RIMS. So I'll just summarize it to say that we have put in some extra parameters this year that we haven't had in the past. But these are definitely unprecedented times, and we're just trying to keep together with exactly what we're doing. But I do know that the live instruction from our teachers, like Ms. Buford, has helped, and that they are still trying to teach within those parameters every single day, 5 days a week. And there aren't, all the districts aren't doing that necessarily. So we've done some things to try to mitigate those differences or variances that we know exist because of the COVID slide. Mr. Jolly?
I think you covered it, but again, this is, like you said, it's unprecedented times. So as we are building this ship, we're creating opportunities and options for our students. I mean, we might have to talk about year-round school. I mean, we might have to talk about it eventually in order to catch our students up. I mean, again, I think what we do now is going to be written in history. If we allow our students to slide, we allow them to not catch up while the counterparts in other districts are going to school and learning on a daily basis. It's what we do now is what the history book's going to say about what we do in this community. Because right now, there's going to be significant slide. Because every home is different, every support system is different. There's going to be a large amount of students who are going to slide. And when I talk about history, I'll talk about 5 years from now when these kids get in 7th grade or 5th grade or 6th grade and they don't pass any tests or they don't have the skills necessary to proceed through school. That's the history I'm talking about. And what did we do during this time? So I think that we are trying to be as proactive as possible. You know, we have made all the efforts we can to bring our kids to school. We've invested the things we know that does work. And we know our students learn better with a teacher in front of them. The conditions here at this time, with the Westwood situation has caused us to put a delay in kids coming back at Westwood. But ultimately, what we do now is will be discussed 5 and 10 years from now. These students' lives and what happens to them will be determined by what happens now. And people can say that if we don't help them now, that the world is going to be forgiving and say, well, these kids should be this way and this way, but it's not, because everybody, if in the state of Ohio, majority of people going to school, except for around major urban areas. So nothing's going to stop. The expectation is that the kids are should be learning, and then 5 years or whatever, these things kind of normalize. No one's going to want to hear an excuse or why Warrensville students didn't make it. So everything is on the table to try to catch them up and get them what they need to be successful.
Thank you, team. Thank you very much for sharing that data. And thank you for continuing to be innovative in how we are bringing education to our scholars, especially at the times that we're living in right now. So, Mr. Jolly, I didn't know, was there anything else to add for this section?
No, I just wanted to appreciate them, the curriculum team, Dr. Cameron Bailey sharing the data. We'll do quarterly data updates so that I know the board requested more data. So we'll make sure that you're provided data as we get it. We'll make sure you receive it so that you're on board and know exactly what's going on.
Thank you so much.
Tracy, I just wanted to make a comment.
Yeah.
And actually, Dr. Caber answered it for me because I wanted to know what was in place. And she said there's tutoring in place for our children, right?
Yeah, yeah, she did.
What about a support system for parents that kids are still doing virtual learning? Is there a support system there for them?
So we do have something on the agenda today that Dr. Reynolds is providing some support for parents.
Okay.
Yeah, that's on the agenda today.
Yeah.
Okay.
In addition, you can go to our
right.
Parent University site on the district web page too, that we provided parent trainings for out of the curriculum department for our parents as well, to start off the remote learning and to assist them with helping their children with remote learning.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Next on our agenda, we are going to celebrate one of our own. Mr. Jolly, I don't know if you wanted to kick this portion off.
Yeah, so at this time, I just wanted to present to the board and also present Miss Buford. She was selected as a Cleveland.com hometown hero for her teaching and her excellence at Westwood Elementary School. So if this was a regular board meeting, we'll be handing her article, which we made into a we created a memorial plaque for her. She does have her plaque, so we made sure she got her plaque, but I just wanted to show the board and the world the great work that Ms. Buford is doing. This plaque here will be mounted at the new elementary school, Warrensville Heights Elementary School, once it opens up.
Oh, okay.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to see if you wanted to say a few words. We're so glad to have you with us.
Oh, thank you. So it's just truly an honor to be recognized for my work. I am really proud to be a part of this district and all the hard work and dedication. And I want to give my Westwood family a shout out and say I love what I do and I love the kids. So thank you so much for recognizing me.
You are so very welcome. We're so very glad to have you be a part of our team. And
Thank
thank you again and congratulations and
Thank you
Tiger
so much.
Pride.
Yes, Tiger Pride.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
All righty. Okay, next on our agenda, we're gonna go to item 1.7, superintendent update. And before we get started, I want to share that Mr. Jolly gave an update to Warrensville High City Council last night, and he did an amazing job. So I really just wanted to say publicly, thank you for a job well done. I also wanted to just kind of reiterate and congratulate the entire team that has worked diligently since the end of February, beginning of March, to build out the innovative planning and strategies to continue educating our students through the beginning of the pandemic, and more importantly, with our return to school program. What many people may not know, our district was trendsetters. They worked hard to build out a program, and many districts tapped Mr. Jolly and his team to ask them what we were doing and if they could leverage some of the work that we had put together. And I also know that, he works diligently with his cohorts so that they can ensure consistency across at least in the public school arena, ensuring that our kids have the absolute best during these unprecedented times. So I don't want to keep yakking, but Mr. Jolly, I'm going to hand the floor over to you.
Yep. Yeah, so I just want to start just with thanking everybody for the groundbreaking on Saturday. I thought it was well attended. And I think that the excitement was spread throughout the community. We looked at our Facebook posts and others items and just the enthusiasm that the groundbreaking brought. So I just wanted to thank the board for all their support and participation. On the next item we have Charlie Izzo, Steve Zanoni, and Ariane Kirkpatrick on this call today to discuss the diversity plan that the board discussed in February 2019. This came up recently last week where there was a minority group who sent a letter anonymous letter to 300 people indicating that the district did not have any minorities on the construction project. We all know that that's not true or accurate. And Mr. Izzo, Steve, and Ariane would like to just do a review of where we are on the plan and what our response was to that inquiry, or that really a kind of an extortion type of move that was made by uninformed people. So at this time, I'll go to Mr. Zanoni and Izzo and Ariane. I can pull up the report. Ariane does have a report to share.
Thank you, Don. Ariane's done an outstanding job of keeping us up to date on what the project's doing, and Charlie and his team have also worked very hard in terms of having diversity and meeting our goals or exceeding our goals, and also the quality of the people who are on that site have just been outstanding. So I really do appreciate the hard work both of them done. And then Ariane, if I could ask you to, and Charlie, if you can walk us through.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having us. I'll start off and then I'll turn it to Charlie, and he can integrate anytime he would like. On the onset of this program, of us putting a diversity partition plan together, the school board, the administration came to us and they said, okay, we know that we've started our contract. We know that can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. And we know that there's EDGE requirements, but because of the makeup and the build of the city of Warrensville, we care about assuring that there are minorities participating on the enterprise level, which is the entrepreneurs, the contractors, and workforce. So we actually worked back and forth to develop a participation plan. And basically the participation plan is designed to provide equal opportunity for traditionally disadvantaged groups to become project construction vendors and suppliers, which will be accomplished through engaging and aggressive outreach, recruitment, training to identify qualified minority women, veteran business owners. In addition, we will have an equal focus on the use of small businesses and local businesses. That was a commitment that the school district wanted to make sure that we did. It was not by contract. These are all goals. The purpose of it was so that we could recognize to take action to ensure that minority-owned, women-owned, and disadvantaged businesses were participating. So that was simply no underlining. Basically, let's make sure we are part of the economic building. Let's make part that we're part of sustainability of building our community. So we had several goals for this program. To coordinate with ongoing programs in Warrensville Heights City School District. We know we're a smaller inner ring suburb, so to work along with Greater Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, and the local labor organizations. Our goal also was to promote equal and increased opportunities for underrepresented businesses. Side note, I can't wait to take away those words, underrepresented and disadvantaged. Oh, that just kills me. But basically, that's what it is. To encourage and sustain business development. Key word in there is not just encourage and assist, but to sustainability. That is the key word, because a lot of times you may have a quota, you may have just a checkbox, and so you may have someone that looks like a majority of us on here, but are they really being a sustainable company? And those are some of the things that we're looking for, and we want to make sure that we build. The plan demonstrates the board's commitment to diversity. And I can adamantly say the Superintendent Jolly, and at that time it was Ray Freeman that was the board president when we put this together. They wanted to make sure that we did this because there are complications, as Steve knows, that when you have an EDGE program, that they sort of not discourage, but they don't want you to implement and put MBE, minority business enterprise language, in your contract. It can be very tricky, but CMSD has been very successful in it. And we figured if CMSD could do it, Warrensville can do it also. So we made sure that we wanted to represent and make sure that we had diversity, inclusion, and equity in our contracts, so that we didn't do it not so we wouldn't get anonymous letters of being bullied and extortion. I love that word, Superintendent Jolly, because that's exactly what it was. So the business goals were, you may look at it and you say, oh, it's only 20% MBE and 5% WBE and 5% EDGE. Well, the realistic things, the truth about it is there aren't that many of us out there. There's organizations like CAA and NAMAC that are trying to increase the numbers there. But so 20% that's a big number. We were sort of concerned about it in the beginning, especially when we met with our partners from Infinity and Coleman Spine. We were like, are we reaching too high? Can we do that? Well, and you'll see the goals that we received later on in the report. Also WBE, because there's not many women business owners out there. And so you'll see a surprising number for that. It's only 5%. So our EDGE participation is 5% also. The EDGE is a state, whenever you use state dollars, you are required to do a 5% spend, which does not necessarily, although it's called encouraging diversity and growth and equality, EDGE does not mean minority. So that's why we also implemented a 20% goal. And if you know, 5% is probably the lowest requirement that I've seen in any type of quota to improve and encourage growth and diversity. It's ironic they call it that, but 5% is the goal. So where am I? So the workforce. Workforce, that was another one. Minority workforce was 20%. We wanted to make sure that there were at least 20% of people that looked like the community, and 5% females. So those are workforce development goals. You have MBE goals, and it's very intricate putting this together. So on the enterprise, as I mentioned, it was 20% for MBE. We reached 18%. That was a $24 million project. And as you know, numbers change and they go up and down on change orders, additions, and blah, blah, blah. But we were very happy on our goal to reach the 18%. And we are prepared to do that and exceed our numbers for the next project with the middle school and high school. We have some ideas that we like to implement that we talked about when we presented with you. And one of the things that we really want to do are invite the minority contractors to sit in and be a part of the scope review so that we know that they're engaged in the beginning. We know that we're building sustainable companies, and they are companies that can be proud that they are participating fully and wholly on these projects. We take it very seriously. On our diversity spend, did you? Okay. On our diversity.
Okay, stay here. Okay, I'm good. Go ahead.
Okay. On our, I'm sorry. Thank you. On our diversity spend, this just shows the chart of where we are. And we are, this actually is, should be above the 3 million mark. So I think I actually put the wrong one in. We are at 3.2 million, I believe.
That's correct. That's the year-to-date on the last chart to the right.
Yeah.
The blue represents the committed amounts and the orange represents the actual dollars paid.
Yes. And then so our diversity amount paid to date, which is different from the edge, is almost 3 million. Look at that number for females, almost $5 million. And for the edge, we're at the probably, I believe, 2.2 million. Our workforce, which we are very excited about, they always said that we couldn't. I think it's the next slide. Yep, the workforce, where we had the 20%, and that was very steep. We are at the month of September at 25%. The month of September alone, our workforce was 30%. 30%, that's the highest we've ever had. There are a lot of companies that helped us in that. Down to earth, we just really wanted to make sure that we highlighted them and applauded them for their efforts. Women, that's very hard to get, especially because there's only like almost only 7% in the construction arena. And so every contract that's going on in the city of Cleveland are scrapping for getting women there. We'll go to the next one. This here shows the diversity workforce by percentage, this chart here. So we had 72% non-minority, but again, you see the 25% for minority and 3% for women. As we go into the high school, it's important to note that the contract just, the project just started September 8th, and we've only had one contractor there doing the site excavation. Site excavation is typically where you see very minimal minority participation. Sometimes I've seen it to be 0%, and very rarely have I seen it over 8%. On our particular project here, we are at 19%, 1% less than 20% goal that we have. And that's something to be applauded for. I believe the contractor platform is very committed to diversity, and not just in his minority workforce, also in his spend. He has three diverse companies. 2 of them are Edge. One of them is a Black-owned female company, and also reached out. Everybody may remember Antonio Bowles. He's our star student who worked on the site with Infinity and AKA team, and he went through an operating engineers program. just recently so that he can be a union employee. And actually, ironically, Norm Edwards, I asked him 2 years ago if he can assist me in getting this young man in. And he finally got him in at the last minute. And unfortunately, Antonio is number 20 on this list. And we really try to get Norm to sort of intercede and help us move him up on the list so that he can have a fruitful career as an operating engineer, but that just not has happened yet. And we will keep pushing Norm for a response to help our student Antonio. Our team of Warrensville High School District, Infinity Construction, AK team, and Coleman Spine Corporation. We've been intentional, as you see, in the planning of our economic spend, and we are totally committed to making sure that minorities are participating on our project. It's very important. So just wanted to give that update to you. Charlie can add on. If you have any questions, please let us know.
Thanks, Arian. I just want to highlight a couple of things that Arian made reference to and note a couple of things in particular relative to OFCC funded projects. You heard Arian talk about the distinction between EDGE contractors, that's a state-run program, and our own self-discipline in terms of what our diversity plan is going to be relative to minorities, women, disadvantaged businesses, whatever else have you. When the OFCC funds your project, the only contractual distinction that they make relative to diversity is their state EDGE program. That's for economically disadvantaged businesses. They can be minorities, they can be women-owned, they can be strictly just economically disadvantaged, and they get certified through the state. The state only requires, when we originally submitted our CM proposal to the district, the state only requires in its request for proposal a 5% participation by EDGE contractors. It's left up to the district, it's left up to the construction manager to come up with ever other ancillary program that they want to have on their project relative to the state's EDGE program. But from a contractual standpoint, we can't write into any agreement that a subcontractor has a specific requirement beyond EDGE. The OFCC sits back and says, wait a minute, if you take bids from 10 contractors, you can't disqualify a contractor that meets the 5% EDGE program because they didn't come up with yours. So how do you do it? It takes, as Arian said, it takes active participation. It takes us developing a program, which we did from the beginning, with our own percentages that represent to us what we want to have on the project in terms of diversity and inclusion. And that's in identifying minorities, that's identifying female-owned business enterprises, identifying subcontracted work versus workforce development. And they're two different things, obviously, but it's up to the team to do that. And we've done that from the beginning of pre-K through 5, and now that same program will hold true through the high school. And the way you do it, these projects are so large, as you know, by the time we're done with both segment 1 and segment 2, you're going to spend in total close to $100 million on these schools. The issue that you have with whether it's female business enterprises, minority business enterprises, economically disadvantaged business enterprises, they're not large enough to do what we call first tier subcontracting. So if I'm going to go buy the concrete and the concrete's $3 million, there are very few, if any, minority or female owned businesses that can actually bid on that package. So most of our participation has to come from what we call second tier. Second tier being subcontractors or suppliers that provide services to those prime contractors that actually subcontract with us. And that's where Arian's team and ours really, really pound the pavement, so to speak, to make sure that whoever we contract with is doing their fair part in terms of looking for other businesses, smaller businesses that can still be part of the process. When Infinity we did your YMCA building, we did the library project. And when we did the YMCA, it was one of the first state CM projects under your home rule that we did at the time. And we actually developed your diversity program at that time because the city didn't have anything. City of Warrensville didn't have anything. And we exceeded our goals at that point in time too. Well, how did we do it? We actually held, and we will do this on the high school if necessary, if we don't see the percentages being met. We actually held town hall meetings where for workforce development and subcontractors, where we advertised, we had minority firms come in and say, hey, I do concrete work and I want to be involved. Okay, well, here's the concrete package. It's this size. If you can't bid on it, these are the prime contractors that are going to be bidding to us. We will give them your information. When we go to award the concrete, we'll make sure that they asked you and solicited numbers from you. So it's that active participation is the only way that you come up with the kind of numbers that we've come up with. I think it's been a real credit to the district and the city of Warrensville on the projects that my company has done over the years to be such an active participant in these kind of programs and to monitor what we're doing to provide opportunity, not just on a subcontracted level, but on a workforce level to the businesses that are not only minority and female-owned businesses, but businesses that are local, that are within Warrensville Heights. On the YMCA job, when we did that, we actually had a poster next to our job site sign of all the businesses that we contracted with that would either local, minority, or female business enterprises. And we're going to do the same thing with the high school. We talked about that the other day, so that the world can see what it is that Warrensville City School District is doing to promote diversity and inclusion on their project. And if any of you ever have an inkling to want to walk the job site, I know a lot of you have taken tours with our guys on pre-K through 5, or if you want to get a look-see into the program or what it is that Arian and her team, I'm very proud of Arian, by the way. These are the first 2 projects we were partners with her, and she does an outstanding job of making sure that this program is not only put in place, but monitored on a regular basis. But feel free to call us at any time. And to Mr. John's point, we don't back down from any kind of whatever you want to call it in terms of the email that went, probably a response to it. And we're not going to back down to anybody. If you want to be part of the process, that's great. Come to the table, give us your ideas, and we'll make sure that we make our program better. But you're not going to be part of the problem.
Exactly. And I just wanted to add, and it's important to add when he Charlie explained tier 1 and tier 2. So that's something that's not going to happen forever. How do we change things like that? Well, Infinity, aka team, have been committed to building sustainability through one of the programs we have here called ACE, the Architectural Construction Engineering. So when you start building young, you start building companies and workforce that will be part of it. Matter of fact, we had 4 of our ACE students that worked on the project throughout the summer that received, 2 of them received the highest scholarships for the ACE program, and our students in the engineering program and the construction program, respectively, at Tri-C and Cleveland State. Those students text me once, probably 2-3 times a week. Some of them, we stay engaged with them. They are part of the job. Also, companies like me, one day I don't want to always just be a tier 2 or an associate construction manager. I would like to be partners fully with Infinity, or Infinity work for AKA team. And that's why we're doing things like this. So I started off doing the diversity. Now you'll see an active part of AKA team on this next site, because we have a civil engineer who's a project engineer who will be part of the actual building of this project, as well as still maintaining the diversity. We also want to make sure, because Charlie and I have seen it before, that when we have community outreach programs, it's not for a photo op, it's not for a dog and pony show. We are making sure that we bring to you some of the best talent of construction companies here in Cleveland. I'm very passionate, we're very passionate, and we thank you again for allowing us to talk to you about the diversity and inclusion and equity here at Warrensville Construction Projects.
Thank you. I have one question, just so that there's clarity, and I think you touched on it a little bit, Arian, and you did as well. Mr. Izzo, there are some areas in the construction world where minority businesses just are not present. We're just not there.
And that's why, and that's why, Tracy, that's why you have to look at things globally. That's why we apply the percentage to the entire project. And I'll give you an example from the standpoint of both workforce and on the subcontracting level. If we look at certain trades, elevators for one, elevators are manufactured by very large companies, and the elevator technicians that put those things in place, okay, are simply technicians that work for major corporations, okay, whether it's Otis Elevator or whoever. You're not going to find a minority elevator company that you can subcontract elevators to. So right off the bat, $1 million worth of elevators, that's $1 million you're never going to get 20% of in the workforce. You're never going to get 20% on a spend. So you have to make it up in other areas. There are other areas where you have a very high potential in terms of minority and female-owned businesses as well as workforce. Glass is another one. There's a lot of glazers in the glazing industry that are women or minorities. So where do you get it? You get it in other trades, the interior trades, drywall and carpentry. There's a lot of minority carpenters. There's a lot of minority laborers, electricians. So you have to get better than 20% in those trades to make up for shortfalls. So it's a balancing act. And if you don't monitor it and you don't try to get better numbers in those trades, you're never going to make the bottom line. That's why when you can achieve what Ariane was talking about in terms of doing 20% on both a sublet and a workforce development, you're doing yeoman's work because there's not those kind of percentages out there yet. So the game plan, build that workforce through getting into the high schools and getting the kids interested in the trades and doing what the ACE program does and things like that, and mentorship programs and things like we did on your project with internships during the summer. And it's building toward the future. And someday we'll get there when every trade will be fairly represented and we won't have that problem. I would love to get, I know Ariane too, to your point, Ariane, I don't even want to have these programs. I want it just to be a world where we can sit there and say, everybody has the opportunity, send it to everybody, and the demographics will prove out themselves because it's there.
I'm so glad that Charlie said that, because on my word, never, you guys know I'm a Warrensville Heights High School graduate. And so Tigers believe we roar loud, and we don't put never in our vocabulary because elevators, that's true. I was just on a recent project and we were like, okay, we're not going to get it, but what can we do different? How can we make sure that the elevator companies that pitch to be a part of this project be inclusive in inviting minorities to be a part? How can we be creative? And we came up with different ideas because, and I did find a minority-owned elevator company in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I said, let's collectively work together so we can have an elevator company or a glazier company. There's also a company, and I don't know if you all know this, besides my construction management also, I actually own a commercial waterproofing. I am the only commercial waterproofing company in Ohio, and I'm not bragging, but I am the best commercial waterproofing company here. My commercial waterproofing company, we do all the work at Cleveland Clinic, Tri-C. So that is something where you do not see women or men, because that word never, and I remember the contractor said that's not going to happen. It did, and I'm the best. We started an organization called NAMAC, Tracy, so that's a good point. National Association of Minority Contractors, been around for 50 years. We just brought a chapter here in Cleveland. I am so excited. It's my passion, and it's so that we can be advocates, educators, and training for minority contractors and tradesmen and women. I'm very passionate. I just reached out to Jolly about a month ago. I know I get on his nerves with these texts that I send that I'm so excited about. But First Energy reached out to us and they said, we want to give money away. immediately. I'm like, let's try and put together a feeder program for ACE for our middle school students. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed. That will be part of what we will initiate with Infinity, AKA Team, and Coleman Spine, because we need partners like Charlie Izzo to help us move it forward. So thank you so much for that question.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring it up. My father was a tradesman.
Hey.
So I've got this, I do have the background. I understand how it was. He spent 30 plus years at CEI as an electrician. And then he and another family member, they ran their own business on the side. And so I do know that there are very few folks that look like us, and where we are, we tend to be segregated in certain areas of the construction industry. And to your point, you're right. Never is not in our vocabulary. And I am looking forward to the day when we can see representation across all the trades of everybody. So it's just who's the best, who's the best, who's the best, who's available, and let's keep this thing going.
Exactly.
So we're very thankful that you guys were able to come this evening. We do our updates with Steve, as he'll tell you, with great frequency, where we are kept abreast of what's happening with our construction projects. So we thought it was very timely to ask you guys to join us today, because it had been a while since we'd had an update on what was happening in our diversity space. And then again, it was appropriate based on what we had just been basically accused of.
Right. You have a good owners rep in Steve.
Yeah.
That doesn't always happen. So he's been, and I'm being serious. You know me, I stay real, but very committed to the diversity and very encouraging on what we're doing and supporting us between that state and community goals and requirements we have. So
yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Jolly, hand it back over to you.
Warrensville has been applauded by the OFCC, by the way.
I'm sorry.
I said, by the way, your diversity and inclusion program on this project has, and Steve can attest,
Yes.
been applauded by the OFCC is going.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
Your projects become really a model on how these projects should be done. And Ariane, thank you for your kind comments, because I've worked with Ariane a long time. So has Jeff Applebaum. And what's really unusual, I have to tell you, the state is not, this EDGE program is not my favorite. I'm just gonna be real open, right? And I think it's kind of a little bit of a sham in terms of it really doesn't help industries. And you talked about how, we want to have more. I've been in this business a long time. I think 20 years ago, we could have never made 20%. So each generation is making a difference. And with the ACE program and the students, if we can just keep students on something that we all make here in America, we build buildings, right? We can't ship that work away. And so really have a great team here, and I'm really proud to be part of it. Thank you.
We're glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate the invite.
Yes, sir.
I know my time is going over, but I just wanted to update the board today. Yesterday, we discovered we had one COVID positive result of a staff member. This morning, we found out we had a second one. We took cautious actions, and we did shut Westwood down for the next 14 days. So students will return to Westwood on November 4th. We will send correspondence and so forth throughout the week. But I just want to assure the board, I want to assure our parents and our staff members that we're doing everything that we can to assure that everyone is safe. We will take every precaution necessary. But I do want to share our philosophy is that kids learn better in school, and we will do everything that we can to bring them back to school. The events on the ground does change that, as it did today, in which we were very swift in our decision making and sending, and making decisions. But again, this whole time is going to be based upon everybody doing their part. That's our staff, that's our parents, that's our students, everybody doing their part. It's going to take a team effort in order for all of us to get through this. My biggest concern is that if we shut down school until there's a vaccine, which won't be until summer of 21, maybe fall of 21, the damage will be irreversible to our students and to our community. So somehow or another, and through prayer, through collaboration, through all of those mechanisms that God brings us, we got to get through this and figure out ways to make sure our kids get educated at the highest level. So that's my commitment to the board, is to bring the best ideas, the best thoughts, to make sure our kids get what they need. Because again, like I said, history is going to speak to what we do at this time for these young people. And if we don't do the right things, or we always take the easy route out, it's not going to be kind at all. And, you know, I'll take this serious. You see, I'm graying by the day. I'm still here at the board because it's serious work. You know, I was here at 6 this morning, making sure that we, you know, got Westwood set up to close. And we're not afraid to make that decision, but we have to try and do our best and keep everybody safe. So that is the big thing. How do we ensure everybody's safe? But we got to continue to move forward. So I just wanted to get a board update. I know you were aware this morning of what was going on. We're going to revisit our plan to bring students back. I can't say that our plan that we had is the plan we're going to implement. We're going to revisit it. We're going to talk to our principals, talk to our staff, and we're going to do everything the safest way possible. But ultimately, the goal is to have kids in front of teachers. And when I see Orange bringing their teachers and students back, you see Solon bringing their kids back. I don't understand or know why we can't. So we got to figure it out. And that's what we're going to. So that ends my report. Open to any questions. That was a long report, but.
No, it was a good report. I just want to make one comment, and it's kind of leveraging what you said. If we don't do what we need to do now to keep our kids where they need to be 5-10 years down the road, when our kids are coming through high school, college, into the workforce, and they have these gaps and deficiencies, there aren't going to be programs out there to help them. And they're just going to kind of go into a little niche in the world, and they just won't have the opportunity to be as successful as they could potentially be if we had done some bold and courageous things in a time like this to keep them receiving the absolute best education. But to your point, everybody has to do their part. Everybody. We have to take care of each other to get us through the situation.
And we want no one to get sick. And I'll just say on my end, I've not missed a day of work since the pandemic started. So I've been here every day. I've been out there serving lunches. I served lunches every day until school started back, and then our team took over. I'm here. The same exposure or risk that we are expecting others, I'm taking as as a superintendent. So this is very heavy on me because our kids deserve what everyone else gets. They do. And I see disparities right now. I see it. I see it. I hear it. I'm on calls. I see it. My concern is that we're going to fall too far behind. We fought too hard to get where we are to go backwards. And it's nobody's fault. It's no teacher's fault. It's no principal's fault. It's no one's fault. But it's different times that's going to take different type of leadership. It's going to take different type of planning. It's going to take different everything. But we'll get through it. We just can't give up, darling. Just say, forget it. We can't do it. And, and just let it fall to the wayside. That just can't happen.
Correct.
So, any questions? I know we've got a lot more to go. Any questions? Anything? Ms. Moolman?
Go ahead, Barbara.
Well, actually, it's not a question, it's a comment. And I'm always coming from a social worker's perspective, and that is what is in the best interest of our children. We're going to always look for the safety of children. We're going to always do that. But we're looking for long-term. like Mr. Jolly said, when they get to be in 11th and 12th grade and they don't have basic skills. Is that fair? Or do we do whatever it takes to make sure we're going to educate our young Black children? And I'm going to say Black children because that's what we have in our district. And Mr. Jolly, you know what? I mean, we have no control of this virus, but we do have control of how we educate our children. We do have that control. You have it. We're not going to put our children at risk, but at the same time, we want to educate. We want to make sure we prepare them for the future. You know, and I think you're doing a beautiful job. I'm behind you 100%. Whatever you decide, I'm behind you. Because I know at the end of the day, you want what's best for our young children. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead, Mimi. You're on mute.
I just want to make a comment. So I agree with everything that everyone has said. My concern is for the teachers. And it's a concern based on the fact that they're not essential workers, but technically they're considered essential workers because the expectation is that they're coming to work. I know that I spoke with a teacher who stated that they did try to go get a test. And this is nothing against the district. This is just the system, I guess, in the pandemic. They weren't even allowed to take a test knowing that these circumstances were going on. So I just kind of want to put it out there that maybe there is something more that we can do, even if it's reach out to OSBA or other legislators to see if there's something that we can do so that when a school is identified as having a positive case, let the teacher, let the staff members get tested so that they know where they stand. It was just disheartening to me to hear that this particular individual,
I need a little clarity on that, and I don't know if Mr. Jolly is aware of this, but
yes.
Did they try? Are you saying they couldn't leave their job to go get a test?
No, not at all. No, not at all.
Okay, because I want to be clear because all of us that want to have a test, they're not allowing just anybody to go get tests. So I wanted it to be clear that it wasn't us stopping.
So no,
the system.
It's the system. And go ahead, Mr. Jolly.
I just want to add though, I never wanted to seem like we don't, and I understand the teachers' concern because our main concern is the teachers too.
Mm-hmm.
We can't have school without teachers, so we need healthy teachers. We need teachers in school.
Right.
So we have to have healthy teachers, and I don't want anybody to misconstrue that my focus is not on the teachers. The teachers have been the primary focus since I've been here.
Right.
Because without great teachers, without healthy teachers, you can't educate students. So we do everything in our power to ensure that they're safe. We bought more things than anybody's bought. Then we put all these Halo air filters and all these safety precautions. We're doing everything more than Walmart, any place that people work out, where people work, we've done more than that. It's just gonna take everybody because understanding that our teachers are the most crucial part of this whole system. Without them, no one gets educated. So they are important, and we want to do everything we can to ensure that they're safe and secure. The testing part, I have a call with South Point tomorrow to discuss that because that's a concern. They should be able to help us with that. If we have a situation here, we should better send our people there to get tested. Even students. But I just ask people to project in the future. We can't just shut down. The world hasn't shut down. Nothing shut down totally. Everybody's working and doing things. And there's just no way we can shut down 100%. It is not in the best interest of everybody at all. So, but we got to do what we can to ensure that our teachers are safe, number one, because none of it happens without them. And we're going to continue to collaborate with them and talk to them and figure out the best way.
Let me just say one quick thing. just as a follow-up, I was not, and I hope you guys didn't take it that way. I was not implying that as a board, we didn't do, or the district, we didn't do what we needed to do. My concern is the fact, and it sounds like you're addressing it, Mr. Jolly, is the fact that we have teachers that, you know, tested positive and they go to get, I mean, who have been around somebody that's exposed to this, and they go to get a test and they're telling them that they can't take the test. But yet and still the expectation is to come back to work when we don't know what's going on. So thank you for addressing it. That's all I have.
Okay, if nothing's gonna be said differently than what's been said already, I'd like to kind of move us along because we're kind of getting up in time and we've got quite a bit to go. Okay, Dr. Rock, we're gonna move to item 1.8, your update.
Oh, here I
Yes.
come. I'm about to put it up.
Thank you, Mr. Jolly. Get
Thank
ready
you,
for
Mr.
a
Jolly.
brand new topic to talk about.
What you say?
I said, get ready for a totally new topic.
Okay.
Okay, I wanted to give the board an update on the bond refinance that we're working on, and this is great news for us. Well, as we started the wheels rolling back in the summertime, various bonds that are at 5%, we're going to get them refinanced at 3%. The district's going to save millions of dollars in the future in interest and principal payments on the bond finance, and this is the bond finance that we did for the new facilities for the school community. Next slide, please. With the bond refinance, the big document that drives this whole program is the preliminary offering statement. It's 104 pages, and this document covers everything about our district, our finances, our operations, our enrollment, our economic outlook, the demographics, everything you could think of, because this is what's documenting our district as an investment to an investor that wants to buy those bonds. And that's completed. So the preliminary offering statement's complete. So the timeline is complete the POS with the expertise provided by our municipal advisor, Michael Priscilla, and our bond counsel. We submit the POS to Moody's, and then there's a teleconference to inquire for a credit rating. And then eventually we sell the bonds. Next slide, please. So the current status right now, as of today, we got the Moody's rating from Moody's, and it's an A1. This is the same rating that we've gotten for all of our other financing. It's a very stable rate. It's great news for the district. And right in the report, Moody's states that the district has a very healthy fund balance and it's supported by prudent financial policies and strong community support for property taxes. So with that, we got a great rating, and the sale of the bonds will proceed on Wednesday next week on the October 28th. Other things on the financial horizon is the gap conversion is in process right now with the state auditors LGS division. This is where they take our cash basis financial statements and convert it into a financial statement to be audited. And then the auditors will be on site November 17th to November 20th. And this year we actually have independent auditors, not state auditors, and this is designed by the state. And they will complete their field work, and this is for the 6/30/20 audit. So we will probably get, and the independent auditors, they have an earlier deadline. They have to complete the audit by December 30th. Historically, from the state auditors, they're on their own schedule. We've gotten our report usually like in March or April. So we should probably get the audit report a lot sooner this time. Also on the horizon, we'll have a finance committee meeting. I'm working on establishing a date, and we're going to review the upcoming 5-year forecast. And then the 5-year forecast will be on the board agenda next board meeting. Also at the OSBA Capital Virtual Conference, Superintendent Jolly and myself will present with Rick Maniloff from Squires Patton Bog. And the course is called Results on the Ballot and at the Bank. And this is where we're going to be describing our master facilities plan and the pathway to new buildings while engaging the school community. Last but not least, just the next slide, Mr. Jolly, please. Again, on November 3rd, the emergency levy renewal will be on the ballot for the district. This is an emergency levy. It's up for renewal. It's not an increase in taxes. There's no increase in taxes, but it will help the district maintain $1.85 million of revenue for the district and continue the current operations and going forward. This levy has renewed every 5 years since 1990. Last slide. And again, it's no increase in taxes, and it keeps the district continue going forward with the educational program maintaining $1.85 million for the school community with no increase in taxes. And that concludes my section.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rock. Board, are there any questions? Hearing none.
I have one, Madam Chair. Dr. Rock, did we need a credit assessment for Moody's?
Credit assessment. Yes,
No.
they give us a credit opinion at the end.
No, you remember how we had to pay for it to get our rating up? Did we have to do it this time around? No?
Oh, enhancement. I have you.
Right.
Yeah, credit. Yes, we will still have a credit enhancement, and that makes the bonds, that'll bring them up to like AA, AA1, and it makes it more attractive for investors, and it
Okay.
pays for itself. And this is all paid for within the proceeds of the deal. So the district doesn't spend one dime on this. So yes, we will get a credit enhancement. It will be with Build America Mutual, but also in that credit enhancement, we're getting a credit, sorry to say credit so many times, but, or we're getting a reduction in the fee because of refinancing so close to the last time that we got a credit enhancement. So we got it at 18 basis points, which is a really, really great deal for the district.
Thank you.
Great question.
All right, thank you both very much for your updates. We are going to move along on the agenda, and I need a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda the treasurer's report and financial recommendations, and that will be items 2.1 through 2.5.
Madam Chair, I move for item number 2 on our agenda, consent treasury report and financial recommendations, item 2.1 through 2.5.
May I have a second?
I second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Board, are there any additional questions about anything in this section? All right, hearing none. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Thank you. We'll now move to item 3. We need a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action certified staff. And this will be items 3.1 through 3.7.
Madam Chair, I move item number 3 on our agenda, the consent superintendent's recommendation and presentation for board action certified staff. I'm looking for items 3.1 through 3.6.
7. 3.7.
3.7, I'm sorry, 3.1
That's
through 3.
okay.
I second it.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Board, are there any comments, questions about this section?
Yeah, what is 3.7?
Yeah, where's that?
I was going to ask the same thing.
That's what I was.
3.7.
It's the consultant personal service contract, Mr. Jolly.
That says
3.6.
Coach. 3.7.
I don't see that. I don't see
I don't
that.
have it.
Wait, so did the agenda change after this morning?
I don't recall it changing. Is it personal? You know what? I
Personal
think
service contract.
there it is. Hit 3.6. It's 3.1 to 3.6. I think it was something in the wrong place.
Okay, because
A termination was in the
early
wrong
this
place.
morning.
Yeah. So can you go to 3.6 and hit that? And this is what Ms. Moomin was talking about the parent engagement. So Dr. Reynolds, as part of his charge, is going to do some parent engagement, almost having a parent coach for parents, work with them on mental health, parenting in the 21st century, how to love themselves, and other topics around self-improvement. So we're going to pay a consultant to come in and do a speaker series with our parents. First time with it, and I think it's a great initiative. Just to, and it'll be on Zoom, but everything is on Zoom now. And if we could do something in person, we would try it. But I'm just trying to support our parents because this is a different day of parenting. You're a parent, and then you're a teacher assistant in some cases, or you're the teacher assistant in a lot of cases. So just helping them, and even I think some of us probably need some help too, dealing with COVID and all the things that go on with it. So this is what we talked about earlier for parents.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other questions on that topic?
None for me.
All right, hearing none. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin? Mrs.
Mute,
Moomin?
Miss Barbara.
Barbara, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I was on mute.
Are you voting on?
What was the question?
We're calling the roll call for the vote.
Oh, okay. The question?
This
for
is
section 3.
Oh, okay. You asking me, do I have any question for that?
No,
Or we voting on that?
We're actually voting, Ms. Barbara.
We're voting.
Oh, okay. Okay, the answer is yes.
Thank you. Mr. Roberts?
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Gator?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes, motion passes 5-0.
Sorry about that, guys.
That's okay. Mr. Jolly, for section 4, let me.
It's on my suitcase.
Okay, so it's going to be items 4.1 through 4.3. So if we can have a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda items 4.1 through 4.3.
Madam Chair, on item 4, the consent superintendent's recommendation and presentation for board action and classified staff, I'm looking for items 4.1 through 4.3.
May I have a second?
Yes,
Thank
ma'am,
you. It has been moved and properly seconded. Thank you both. Board, are there any discussions on these 3 items?
No, read them and they were.
None for me.
Yeah,
Not me, but Tracy, can you put the agenda back up?
The agenda is up.
So
I don't have it.
Probably have to do
I don't
something
see it.
with your tiles.
You have to, yeah, I don't know if, are you on the iPad?
Right, I just see Dr. Rock. I don't see.
Hold on, hold on, please. You have to hit the button at the upper right where it says more
Oh, okay.
and go to meeting settings. Yeah, nope, it's not there. I really can't help you on the iPad. I don't typically do the board meetings on the iPad, so
But
I'm not sure what you hit to flip it so you can't see.
See it. Okay, all right, I'll figure it out.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I wanted to see if anyone had any questions about either of the 3 items, or Mr. Jolly, if you wanted to share anything about either of the 3.
Yeah, so the retirement that was unexpected. Miss Lou John will be retiring at the end of this year, so we wish her the best on her journey. The resignation going on to that. Yeah, those are bus drivers. We did anticipate, and we knew those were coming. And then the termination, it's a situation where we found out a person who took leave was working at another district. I think we might need to read the resolution, the first part of that resolution for the termination. Because of the
Okay,
situation.
well then, you know what, then let's pull it again. For some reason, my agenda doesn't have that, didn't have the attachment. So
Yeah,
let's go back and rescind, I'm sorry, if we can rescind this motion, and we'll only ask for approval to approve by consent agenda items 4.1 and 4.2 of the superintendent's recommendations and presentation for board action classified staff.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move item number 4, the consent superintendent recommendation and presentation for board action classified staff, looking for items only 4.1 and 4.2.
Thank you, sir.
I
May I have a
second.
second? It's been
I
moved.
second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. These two, board, are we ready to go for a vote?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Roberts,
Oh, yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin, Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Jolly, can you do me a favor and pull up the result for the termination?
yes.
Okay.
Oh.
I do apologize, board. I printed the agenda earlier, so I have when it went live before.
Yeah,
So
so we just got this down, but here it is right here. I think we just need to read. Yeah. I can read it, or one of the board members have to read it?
we honestly, she said during a regular meeting, we don't have to read the full resolution.
Okay.
So we just read the title. I'm gonna need a motion on the floor to approve the resolution to terminate the employee contract of a non-teaching employee.
All right, that's it. Okay.
Okay, so may I have that motion and then a second?
Madam, I move for item number 4.3, the termination of an employee.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. There's no further, if there's no further discussion, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, the motion passes 5-0. Next on the agenda, we need to have a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for personnel and programs, and that will be items 5.1 through 5.8.
Madam Chair, on item number 5 of our agenda, the consent superintendent recommendation and presentation for personnel and programs, I'm looking for items 5.1 through 5.8.
May I have a second?
I second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Board, are there any questions, comments on this, anything in this section for discussion?
Madam Chair, just quick question on 5.2, volume 36-1, that's all completed, correct?
Yes, yeah, that's all complete. This is just a parent involvement. Basically, it's what we've had already. They just sent it
Thank
to
you,
us.
Lowe.
Thank you,
Okay, I'm going
Superintendent.
to ask anyone who's not speaking to please keep their devices on mute.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Barbara, you're on mute.
Yes. Yes.
got it. Mr. Roberts,
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, this motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next, oops, sorry. Next on our agenda is new business. The first item for new business is the discussion of our board meeting location for the November and the December meetings. Mr. Jolly, at this point, so we can see each other, so I can see who wants to speak, can you pull the agenda down, please? Thank you. So I want to just open the floor up now so we could talk about we only have 2 more board meetings left for the year, November and December. And we wanted to talk about the possibility of coming back to an in-person meeting. It would be the board only. We would ensure that we would be in a safe environment. So we would still be able to fall under the predicates of the House bill that allowed us to do the virtual meetings. So as we would do today, our participants would join us via YouTube. Jonathan would be with us up in the booth to record it. We would go into room 154 in the high school, because in that room we are able to safely distance. We'd follow all the CDC guidelines with the face masks. It would just be us in the room. And Mr. Jolly shared that he could make sure that the little machine that's in the board building now, where we come in, it would take all of our temperatures as we entered, and we could have the 3-sided plexiglass shield. So I just wanted to open it up to see if we were at a level of ability to come back to an in-person meeting. So we'll ask, one by one, just to give comments. I'll start with Barbara.
To be honest with you, because this virus is rising so much right now, I'm just not, I just don't feel safe right now going into the building. I'll be honest with you. I'm just uncomfortable right now. And the reason why is because I have a 93-year-old mother-in-law that lives with me. And I just can't just say, okay, it's okay for me without considering my family. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'm just not ready at this point. I'm gonna be honest with you. Maybe by January, I think I might.
Okay.
But right now I'm not. But if the majority say we go,
we're in a very safe environment. It's really just a discussion to figure out how we can, if we are at a point where we can come back to, I won't call it normal because nothing is normal right now, but just come back to an in-person setting. And I'm all about truth and honesty, and I just want people to feel free to speak their truth, because I don't think any of us are like, yay, let's do it. We all have concerns. Everyone has concerns. And I just want an open and honest conversation. Or, if we're not ready to have the conversation, we can say that as well. I know Mimi shared that OSBA is advocating for school districts to pass House Bill 358. She sent us the email over the weekend.
Yeah, I read it.
Correct, yeah. And you should have received something from Will Schwartz back in September also. So yes, I said House Bill in the email to you, but it's Senate Bill 358 is, they're asking for a call to action to get the House and, Education Committee to start having some discussions about this after the election. And part of the discussion is extending the December 31st moratorium, along with some language about ed choice vouchers and even testing, some of the things that Mr. Jolly addressed as far as testing. In terms of us going back into the office, look, we've only got 2 meetings that are left. I don't see any reason, after this meeting, we only have November and December left. So I would say, just leave it the way it is. And I would like to ask the board to possibly send some letters to the different legislators asking them to please make a move on that legislation.
That's what I meant to ask about in the email, did they give, so before when we've done it, they've given us a pre-scripted letter that we would just like sign off and we could email it, whatever. Did they give us that this time?
So they didn't give us a letter, but they gave us their talking points, the reasons why they say that this legislation should be passed. I also remember an email that Mr. Jolly shared with us, and I want to say it was your mid-size organization. There was some communication from them where I want to say it was BASA, maybe someone like that actually sent a letter as well. And this was again back in September. So I can get the language. What I would ask is we take whatever they've given us, but make it a little bit more personal and try to come up with 1 or 2 bullet points that are specific to our district. And I can put a call into Will Schwartz and Jennifer Hogue at OSBA.
Okay. Thoughts, comments, Jolly, Earl, Ray?
Yes, Madam Chair, and with respect to the concerns that you know our members would have for their families and not wanting to, you know, inadvertently infect someone else, and I completely respect that. I respect that in my own life. But after listening to the protocols that would be in effect, and when I think about the fact that our teachers are, you know, going in and educating our students, if we were to have the meetings, you know, in person, I would be comfortable, and I would show up because, you know, you think about it, they're going, you know, I respect the protocols that Dr. Reynolds and everyone has put into place. I heard about the the partitions. You know, we would have the social distancing, we would have the face mask, and it would just be a limited population of just us. So in an effort to show support for our staff that are, you know, going in every day to do what they have to do, I would attend the meetings in person if they were held in person. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not trying to force it on anyone.
Ray, anything extra?
He's on mute.
Oh yeah, you're on mute.
He was about to go in too.
All right. Mimi knows me. Mimi knows me. I listen to other board members. As all of you guys know, and Tracy, you definitely know, my immune system is suppressed.
Right.
I can catch a virus cold whenever, but do I let that restrict my capabilities of doing things for these scholars, these beautiful scholars we have? No. But I think, like Mimi said, we only have 2 meetings. I don't think that we should change what's been working. Madam Chair, you're doing a fine job with doing it on a virtual segment. So I'm okay. I think we do need to look at it going into December. If we want to go to the new municipal building, and I mean, me and Mimi talked a little bit. I mean, it's not unless we change it up, it's not COVID friendly in that environment. And I mean, we got to look at that in December. But I would, like Barbara and Mimi, I would just like to just keep it where it's at. It's not hurting. If it's not broke, don't. If it's not broke, you don't have to fix it. And we've been running it pretty good, and we don't have actual visitors, so I think we can do it remotely from the comforts of our workstations or offices. And I would be one and willing to just keep it going like it is. We only got 2 meetings and we're out of this terrible 2020 year. So my opinion would be just to do it virtual. Thank you.
Can I speak to it real? I'd just like to say we are asking people to come back to work and work on a daily basis in the buildings. It's a lot to ask people to come to work, and then we can't have a meeting. It's just a lot. It does put a lot of pressure on us to make different decisions, because we asking people to come to work every day. And we just asking, you know, I think it's going to be challenging for us, because people have been back to work since August, and it's going to be challenging.
Yeah, I would agree. I wanted everybody else to have a chance to speak first. I too have a compromised immune system, and I have asthma. But to Mr. Jolly and Earl's point, and I know that we all understand this. So again, folks, this is a safe, open conversation. We do want to make sure that the teachers and other district employees understand we are in this together. Now, in preparation for this conversation, because again, I know where people are. We're human. I did talk to, I know Maple, Bedford, they both meet in person. I don't know about Bedford's size of their boardroom. I know Maple has a giant boardroom, but I did find out that we could see if, for those individuals like Miss Barbara, we understand your mother-in-law, because we don't want anybody, we don't want any of us sick.
Right.
If we could figure out how to do a combination live and in person meeting where we could potentially, bring you in on Zoom, but that's something that it's going to take a little bit of time to figure that one out. So again, I wanted to bring the conversation up. We'll leave the November meeting as it stands on virtual, and we will talk about it. We'll figure out what we're going to do, and in January we're coming back. We're going to come back. We've got to show some solidarity with our educators, and trust me, I'm the last one that wants to be sick, because I'm still recovering from a very major surgery. So, but to Mr. Jolly's point earlier this evening, we've all had to make adjustments to the way we've had to live. And it's been interesting just for me, just watching more traffic on the streets, because it's like everybody now has figured out how to do this different life that we're living in under this pandemic. So, for me, it's the utmost care for each other. It's the utmost care. I would be devastated if anybody got sick coming to these meetings. So, it's going to be an honor system. If you don't feel good, don't come. We will have that mechanism there. And we'll take the temperatures. And again, we are going to figure out, I promise you this, how to do, if there's people that still are not comfortable, how to have you come in on Zoom and we are still able to participate. But I do want us to try to show some, partnership with our educators and our district employees.
I want to say one thing though, like, we don't have to have it in 154. We could open the gym up at the high school and have the meeting in the high school gym. I mean, we could adequately space people out in the high school gym. I mean, it might not be on YouTube or whatever, or we could figure out a way to FaceTime it or something. But there's like all options on the table. We have a lot of facilities with a lot of space that we can adequately space out people. So I just want y'all to take that in consideration. 154 is not the only place. We got John Dewey, we got Eastwood, we got all these different places that's large that we can use when the time comes.
Yep. And before I open the floor up, I do want to share this. While we could go to the other buildings and not be on YouTube, we can still video, and it'll stream like a number of districts do across the nation. It'll stream after our meeting. I saw Mimi's hand first and then you, Earl.
So are we saying definitely that we're coming back in January when we see that the cases are rising, or and is this considered a vote? Are we voting?
I said we will continue the conversations to make the determination to come back in January. And
Okay.
of course, we've got to follow what's going on. Everybody's got to follow what's going on with the numbers.
Okay.
I'm
I
not-
heard you say we were
I'm
coming
not
back in
even-
January, so that's why I was clarifying.
We'll have the discussion to come back in January. Because if these numbers keep going up as they project they will, trust me, everything that we know it today is going to be looking different.
So
Please let Earl go. He had his hand
can I
up.
finish up though? I've got one follow-up question.
Go ahead.
That's fine. Go ahead.
I'm trying to give everybody a chance to speak.
Well, just let me finish speaking.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So if we're going to have this discussion in November, can we also include the attorney to find out what that looks like? If we need to include the attorney, what it looks like to have some people actually coming into the meeting and some people doing it remote. Are we even going to be able to do that if this moratorium isn't lifted? So that would be a question for Donna.
We can ask Donna to join us, but before we even do that, we've got to figure out how to do it. So we may not be ready to have the conversation in November. That's why I said before the end of the year. Go ahead, Earl.
Madam Chair, with no disrespect to any, to my fellow board members at all, but I'm thinking about the fact that our teachers are coming in every day. They're coming in every day. And I said, we have 2 meetings left. We can't come in one day a month. I mean, honestly, we have the protocols and the like. They're coming every day, and we can't come once a month. I'm thinking if I was on the other side of that, if I was like at my job, if I hear my boss is there saying, hey, we're staying at home, but we need you guys on the front lines every day. So I'm thinking we might want to consider the message that we may be sending if we saying, we're going to remain remote, but we need you guys to physically report. That's all. I just want to consider that.
Okay. Well, I do thank you guys for the open and honest discussion. So we've got our marching papers. I will talk to Donna, Mr. Jolly, and I will to ask your question, Mimi. And then in the meantime, we'll have to figure out, how we can do peace and park. Because like I said, I do know one district that is allowing, I think it's one of their members to join via Zoom because they have some significant health concerns that they're dealing with. So more to come, more to discuss. When we have more to put on the table, we'll put it back on the agenda. So thank you for your input. So that we can keep moving. The next thing that we want to touch upon is the item that was added this evening, discussion of our November 6th through 7th board retreat. Mr. Jolly, it's just us, and it's just, I don't know that we have to put the agenda back up right now. Thank you, sir.
It's Savannah running it now. Savannah got it now.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Sorry, Savannah.
That's okay.
Very similar. The numbers are up. It is just going to be the 7 of us with the facilitator. Again, we will be following all of our protocols. This one it's a little different. We'll be in a room for a good number of hours and inside, but we need to talk now because I did see where Deb has emailed to begin moving forward with planning for the upcoming retreat. So before we get to the location, I do want to remind everybody, please finish your reading. And for those that have not taken that communication quiz, please take it. It takes less than 5 minutes. When you take it, it's going to give you, it's going to tell what type of communicator you are. And she's asked that you just email that back to her and her alone so that she can finish putting the matrix together to work on the communications portion of our agenda. So now to talk about the location. Dr. Rock, you've worked closely with the Marriott. So what have you given them instruction-wise as far as socially distanced? How is this being planned? What is it looking like for us, sir?
Oh, everybody will be socially distanced. They'll all have their own desk and plenty of room in a big room.
Can't
Because
send it.
they have to follow the social distance
Right.
laws just to be in business.
Comments board. I'll also share this. I know Dr. Rock had shared with us before that food service is going to be individually prepared meals, no buffet style.
Yes, and since we're a smaller group, we will just be ordering right off the menu. So you just order something that you like. And I think, I'm not sure if we leave the room. I think we leave the room and they bring the food in and then we come back in, or we go into another room to eat.
So this one makes me a little nervous. It does make me a little nervous. We're in here for a long time, for 2 days. So I honestly, I'd like to see, I know that we've got some very tough topics to discuss, but we may have to do this one virtually.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm in agreement with you, especially with the numbers going back up. I don't know what the
Right.
ventilation is like in the room that we're going to be in. Barbara's already expressed her concerns. And I know I mentioned it to you, but the other board doesn't know. I have to leave early on that Saturday, unfortunately, because of Crystal's engagement party. So, but for the sake of safety, I think the best thing to do is to try to do it virtually. Now, you understand, I know you understand the concerns with virtual and it being a public meeting.
Yep, that's what I shared. We've got very tough topics to discuss, and it's going to be discussed, in a virtual environment.
So I'm just going to ask, do we still need to do it at this time, or do we just put off a retreat until we can truly safely meet, face to face?
That's an option. Dr. Rock, what do the contracts look like? That's how are we committed contractually?
We have a $100 deposit at the Marriott.
What about for Deborah?
Ms.
And
Keith,
I
think
was
it's paid
going
for.
to say for Deborah, I do know she's still been traveling, doing retreats, and the way she's booking them, from what I understand, because I did ask, she's giving time in between each one. So she's coming in early enough to do self-quarantining. She'll meet, and then she travels again to give time for self-quarantining, and then she meets with each respective board. So
we paid half of her contract as required.
We paid half of it.
Yes.
I personally don't see, it's just my opinion, why we can't or shouldn't just postpone it until things are safer. It's just my opinion.
well, that's what we're looking for tonight. That's why we put on the agenda. Oops.
And I'm actually I'm going to agree with Mimi on this one. The concern is out there. It's just so great, and it's scary. It's just really scary to me right now. And I just don't want to do anything to jeopardize the health of my family. That's what I'm at. Is it an urgency that we need a retreat at this point? Like Mimi just said, can we just put it off for a couple months? Hopefully, everything. I'm hoping that this virus, they find a cure for this virus, because for once I'm tired of being at home, and another one is that it's, it's just so many people just getting sick out here. And I just don't want to see that happen to anybody, for no reason. Well, I shouldn't say no reason. There is a reason we having this retreat. We do need it. It's just that is it urgent that we have it at this point?
Earl Ray, thoughts, comments?
Earl, you're muted.
Oh,
Coupled
yeah.
with the fact that we're not, we're not gonna have the meetings in person. I wouldn't even have to go that deep. I'd just say, at best, postpone it or cancel it altogether. I won't even talk y'all to death about it. Go
Okay.
ahead, Ray.
Madam Chair, with the COVID climate, and like you and Mimi say, with the rise, and we may be in a red type of situation here shortly, listen to most of the doctors, I think we do need to postpone it. Like Barbara said, and Mimi, I mean, we do need a board retreat. All public boards need a retreat. I think we're gonna have to wait on this because of the climate of the COVID. So I would say postpone it.
All righty. I will give Deb a call following the end of our meeting this evening. Thank you. And
And
thank you, Earl. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Rock.
I think all of our deposits are still good. It's just postponing it off, and just my 2 cents on it. I think Deborah really does her beauty of her consulting for the group is that in person. It really is.
Right.
So I think you're making a good decision.
Right. I think because I would love to be inside looking at her in person.
Yeah.
That
talking
would be
with you.
as well. Yeah. All righty. I will give her a call following our meeting and let her know that we're going to postpone it and find out
get back with her.
And find out what the impact will be so I can share it with the board.
Okay.
Okie dokie. All righty. We are going to Mr. Jolly now, if we can go back to the agenda. And as he's going back to the agenda, there's one announcement that I wanted to share after Dr. Rock. I forgot to ask, do we have any correspondence?
No, we do not.
Okay. There's one announcement I wanted to share. We got word earlier this month that Mr. Jolly has been awarded the 2020 Equity Champion for Education by the Urban League of Greater Cleveland. And it's just such a great honor. And we just wanted to say again publicly, congratulations to you. And the board will be looking forward to getting the meeting details so that we can join that virtual celebration of you on. And then what's the date again? I'm sorry.
I think it's November 4th. I gotta check again. I believe it's November 4th.
Okay.
November the 4th? He said November the 4th?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So, yep. So we'll look forward to getting that information so we can join the celebration virtually. And again, I just wanted to make sure we as a board were able to congratulate you publicly for that great accolade.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to go to item number 10.1. And I need a motion on the floor for the board members to move into executive session.
Madam Chair, I like this.
Can you pull up 10.1? I'm sorry.
I have it.
Go ahead. She got it up.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move this board into executive session to consider the employment and compensation of a public employee.
Thank you. May I have a second?
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. Dr. Rock, can you call the roll so we can go into executive session?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes. At this time, can you move the board members into executive session? It's coming.
Yes, sorry, Mr. Jolly, could you help me with this?
I'll just do the 5. There we go.
Is it moving y'all over there? Hold on, I gotta get Dr. Rock out of there. Hello?
always feel like that's a time warp, like. You're on mute, Trace.
I'm going in. I think on the iPad, when we're in executive session, if I hit the blue leaf, it pulls me out of executive session. But see, then it's red now. So if I hit that, I'm off the meeting. So we are at the end of our very lengthy agenda. Oh, wait, did we lose Dr. Rock? Oh,
I'm right here.
Maybe I need to go get my glasses.
We lost, where's Barbara?
Yeah.
There.
Oh,
Barbara's there.
I have
I'm
to
glad
move
it's
my
not
arrow.
just me.
Sorry. All right.
All right. So at this point, we are ready to adjourn. So may I have a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, I'd like to adjourn the Warrensville Heights City School District Board of Education meeting October 21st, 2020, regular meeting.
Thank you, sir. May I have a second?
I second.
I second.
Everybody have a wonderful evening. Stay safe out there and go Warrensville. Take care.
Bye, everybody.